Man, I forgot just how charming a lot of the cards in the Harry Potter card games were. What you did was you had like a wizard who you played at that has some sort of special effect, and you could do things like summon magical creatures and cast spells. It was a life decking game, which is why I used it as an example here. But one thing I really like about it is that the designs were all sort of done in the style meant to look like it does on like the covers of the books. And I guess it's not a bad idea to talk a little bit about Harry Potter right now, seeing as Harry Potter's actually in the news for a good reason for a change. The first book has been the English version, the British version of the first book, Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. Yes, I'm calling it by the British name. You Brits who say, oh, it's not the Sorcerer's Stone. It's free on Audible right now, and right now they're actually getting like a bunch of guest readers to read the book as well. So they got a whole bunch of cool stuff going on. But the Harry Potter card game actually had some interesting mechanics to it. It had a 2-action system, which is something we've seen in Lightseekers recently. I don't know if it works very well for a game like Harry Potter the way it does for Lightseekers. But what they actually did was they had a resource system, yes, and you'd have to spend an action to play a resource, which was, one of the things. But they were called lessons, and what they were was you had like Care of Magical Creatures and Quidditch and potions, and they're the books here. But here's the interesting thing about them that I think it's kind of neat is these, you don't like tap them like land cards in order to pay for stuff. Instead, what lessons do is when you play a lesson, you can then play any card up to that number of that sort of matching lessons that you have in play. Like if I put in the 1 Care of Magical Creatures thing, I can play the Care of Magical Creatures Dog Biscuits card. So it's less like you are putting in resources whose energy pays for stuff, and instead you're building your qualifications, which makes sense. I mean, the setting of the game is a magical school, so having a system where you gain experience and you learn in order to summon these, cast these more powerful spells and summon these more powerful monsters definitely works as a flavor mechanic. I don't think the action system combined very well with the life decking system, because Care of Magical Creatures, they summon creatures who automatically do damage each turn, and the harm from that can pile on pretty quickly. Although Fluffy here is their capstone card. This is a you have to have 10 Care of Magical Creatures lessons in play in order to play Fluffy, but once it's out, it's doing 12 damage against the deck of 60. So I think this for what I'm talking about with like the hideous damage from Bakugan, I think I'm using Harry Potter as the counterexample, because it takes a bit more to really get a damage engine going in the Harry Potter card game. Like I said, this is the capstone here. Which one is it? Charms has Obliviate as its capstone. It forces the opponent to discard their whole hand. I never really got the chance to play it. It was yet another one of those card game types that really got caught in the lurch of the just absolute onslaught of trading card games that were coming out at the time. 2001, it lasted about a year, and oh wait, there is a card that's more expensive than Fluffy, I remember now. Yes, the Philosopher's Stone was actually a card. It cost 15 transmutation lessons, but it essentially let you completely reshuffle your life deck back together. You also had the Invisibility Cloak, which was 13. But yeah, you can play with the Philosopher's Stone and the Invisibility Cloak. Let's see, what do we have? We have, we have the anti-cheating spell. You got McGonagall there with magic quills that prevented cheating. Like I said, I really love the art style of this game. It was a neat little game, and they also had like the Gringotts Key and oh yeah, there it is, Obliviate. It's a 12, and they have the gold galleons and the coins. It's a lot of great stuff, and they have a bunch of different brooms you could use. Like here's where's the Quidditch one? We got the I think the best I got was the Comet 260, which is a pretty basic one. Yeah, I didn't get I don't have the card for Harry Potter himself. I have the Quidditch Cup. I don't have the card for Harry Potter himself. I don't have like the Nimbus 2000 or anything like that. But you know, fun stuff. But I guess what I really wanted to talk about in this video was I wanted to go more in detail about the 2-year curse. It's something that I allude to at the start of all of the sins of trading card games that I've been talking about. And it's something I've mentioned a few times, but what is it about the 2-year curse that sets it apart? Card games have, you know, different lifespans. The first type of card game you have is the one that's dead on arrival. It comes out, nobody cares, and it just goes away. They last like just the base set because nobody buys it. The stores who sell cards don't buy any subsequent product, and it just goes away. Then you have the card games that last about a year. These are what I call dead on arrival and denial. They might get a few, like 1 or 2, maybe even 3 or 4 sets out because, you know, they have a roadmap. They're like, you know, we just gotta keep going. We got our roadmap, we got our plan. If we just ride it out, we'll make it. And they won't, and they never do. These are games like Meta X, Luck and Logic, some of those that just you know, just give out. Just they never had a chance. They never really got anywhere. They didn't have an engaging enough card system, or they didn't have something that helped them set them apart. The Harry Potter card game around that era, there were so many games like this because Magic became popular. There was a little spike there. Then Pokemon became popular, and everybody went insane. Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! Kind of in rapid succession just blew up in popularity, and people just went nuts. We got trading card games for basically everything. Like, one of my 7 deadly sins is don't base a card game on a movie, and that's one of them. And then, you know, let's skip the 2-year curse for now. A game that lasts somewhere between 5 to 7 years, that's a game that had a good run. These are things like the World of Warcraft trading card game, or the Naruto trading card game. Those are games that, you know, they did well enough. Maybe, you know, the fandom moved on from whatever, or like in the case of the World of Warcraft trading card game, I think they released Hearthstone. I think that's one of the reasons they wound it down. I'm gonna have to check the timetable in that, but a lot of the artwork from Hearthstone is borrowed from cards from the original World of Warcraft trading card game. Those assets didn't come out of nowhere. But yeah, about 7 years is a game that had a good run. If your game lasts more than 10 years, assuming it still has a decent amount of, you know, relevance, a certain amount of efficacy in the card game world, it's what I would consider to be a timeless game. And yes, that would include a game I absolutely hate, Card Fight Voldemort. Yeah, if your game lasts more than 10 years, it is one that has managed to stick to the popular consciousness. It is one that people are still playing and talking about. Even L5R, Legend of the Five Rings, even though it ended a while back, although that's because it got sold to Fantasy Flight Games, who turned it into an LGS, an LCG, that's what it's called, LGS. LCG, a lifestyle card game, which is just this weird thing, but, you know, it lasted for like 20 years, so I'd still consider it a timeless game, even though it is no longer with us. But yeah, the games like Magic, Pokemon, that means you like really landed something. But going back down 2 years, it's different from 1 year, because 1 year you are, you know, your game just came out of the gate in a death spiral. 2 years is a bit different. What 2 years means is, in the first year, you actually did something good, something that people liked. You caught people's attention in that first year. This is a game that starts off really successful. And what happens with the 2-year curse is that a lot of times the game can do really well, be really successful, but what then happens is the people who make the game, who are in charge of the game, miss the timing and fail to capitalize on the opportunity, and people very, very, very quickly lose interest. And this is why I highlight the 2-year curse especially, because these are games that have a lot of potential but then squander it. And in my opinion, squandering the potential of something is worse than making something bad. That's just my opinion, my idiom, and that happens a lot. What happens frequently is a lot of these games, they think, oh hey, we've made something cool, people are really liking this, so we should just continue with what we are doing. But what happens is, it's another lesson from Mark Rosewater's video, is they were more frightened of challenging their audience than boring them. And basically they didn't really do anything that brought a meaningful enough change to the game to make it so that people would stay interested and be, ooh, what's gonna happen in the next set? What are we gonna get in the next one? Like, an example of how to do it right is, you know, people say it's like, oh, Magic the Gathering and Pokemon, they have their sort of established nature and setting and stuff like that. And the truth is, no, they didn't. They pretty much right away started doing things to really diversify and keep people's attention. Like with Magic the Gathering, the people think, oh, it's a sort of Tolkien-esque high fantasy scenario, but here's the thing, is the very first expansion they put out for Magic the Gathering was Arabian Nights. So the base set, if the base set is sort of Tolkien-esque, they immediately jumped from Tolkien over to Scheherazade and did all sorts of cool things, like the Library of Alexandria and all sorts of cards based on genies and stuff like that. And honestly, I'd like a return to Arabian Nights if they ever wanted to make another set like that. We could get back like a real Gerard type of character to lead the way or something like that. Or that or Mercadian Masks. Mercadian Masks, it's considered the worst set in Magic history, but it's my personal favorite one because the flavor is just so scrumptious with the artwork and things like that. It's about this sort of Elizabethan setting where everybody's, you know, being like opulent and fancy and foppish, but it's clearly rotten to its core, and I just love how that looks. I would love a return to a scenario like that. Or like I said before, again, you know, they did a set based on, you know, children's fairy tales, the Throne of Eldraine set. If they wanted to go back and do another set based on Scheherazade or something, maybe they could call it like 1002 Nights or something. That would be, I think that would be kind of cool. Pokemon 2. I mean, the first 3 sets of Pokemon, I mean, it was already a smash hit. The cards were probably going to do pretty well just as collector's items, just as trading cards. That's one of the big reasons that caused this second, like, influx of games, was people were using the Pokemon cards as collectible cards. With Pokemon, the first 3 sets were centered on getting all 150 Pokemon out in card form. But once they did that, what was the very next set? Team Rocket, which introduced dark Pokemon. Ooh, Team Rocket's making evil Pokemon that have different powers and stuff. And, you know, that worked really well. I mean, of course you have, like, the out-the-edge element of having dark, evil Pokemon, but it proved that they were willing to take things in a new direction. And then I think it was immediately following that they did the Gym Leader series, where they had new Pokemon with unique names that were based on the Pokemon the gym leaders used, so you could, like, roleplay that you were one of the gym leaders when you were making your deck and stuff. I remember I had an Erica deck that was so infamous. It could win games without playing a single energy card. It did that at least once. Which I think is just, like, totally in character for Erica to basically win by not doing anything. But yeah, that's the thing, is these games, these big famous games that people think of as having, like, you know, a set method of doing things, were already experimenting with what their game could do basically right away. And, you know, that's something I talk about in the set rotation video, is I talk about how Magic and Pokemon are constantly experimenting. Yu-Gi-Oh! Admittedly took a bit longer. It was helped a lot by its media push, but for the longest time, the way you won Yu-Gi-Oh! Was you would be the first one to get Summon Skull into play. That really started to change when Gravekeepers hit. They started introducing the archetypes and doing all of that. How long did it take for Gravekeepers to show up? I think we were in Battle City arc when they first appeared. It took a while. It took a little bit for Yu-Gi-Oh! To really find its way. But But that's what all of these games did. Like Magic, Arabian Nights also helped introduce the broader concept of the Magic the Gathering multiverse, and that you could travel to all of these different places that all have their own different settings. Like you could go to a place full of dinosaurs, or like one based on ancient Egypt, or again you could go to you know the magical land of 1001 Nights, and you could it was great. And Pokemon introduced the idea of storytelling, of you know a bit of role play, in that you could have these other characters who could show up to help you, or you could be using the powers of the gym leaders and stuff like that. They are constantly, you know, warping things around like that. Although I don't think they've done like a gym leader themed set since Generation 4, since Diamond and Pearl. I think that was the last time they did anything like that, anything cool like that. Nowadays it's all, you know, it was EX, then it was like EX, then GX, and what is it now? I think it's VMAX. Or is it D or something? I thought it's like Dynamax, Gigantamax, whatever it is. But it's kind of been that for a while. Well, they did a little block that was Team Plasma, which I think a lot of people got into. That was kind of neat. But yeah, if you are running a card game, if people like what you make, try to continue to throw them, you know, interesting ideas down the line. Bakugan, the Baku gear and the multi-type cards, I think they're enough. They definitely help a lot. The multi-type cards enables certain decks to carry more powerful cards. You have the 2-cost stop 2/3 of all flip cards. You have the multi-type cards. You have like the Pyro Obliterator. You have the Baku gear. I think was sort of a nice natural evolution. People remember Battle Gear. People liked Battle Gear. I don't know why some people say they didn't like Battle Gear, because in my experience, Battle Gear were just awesome because they added new play potential. But it brings back Battle Gear, which were really popular. I kind of wish you could use the toy for something like it. I wouldn't, you know, object to the idea of them having, like, if they brought back the traps as like assist characters who you like kept to the side, but you had to like pay energy to charge them up to get ready to use them just once. I think that would be cool too if they worked like a Lurig deck or something. You know, there's or like a starting hand or something, like something it's sitting there that your opponent can see and they have to calculate around it. But yeah, the use of the Baku gear was sort of the next like natural step. It's, you know, it's the Pokemon tools. Those were introduced in Generation 2 in the Pokemon card game. They actually created cards that had like special text on them before they made it like an official rule. But yeah, these games are constantly doing new things. The best way to avoid the 2-year curse, another lesson I forgot to point out, is, you know, be more afraid of boring your players than challenging them. So yeah, if you've got a card game, if you've got a hit, don't rest on your laurels. Come up with something cool. So yeah, I'm glad you guys liked the video. I like to do these sorts of like quick little follow-ups as like a palate cleanser, because I don't know why, but for some reason I get much better with my script writing when I just have this kind of catharsis here. So third video is going to be a bit interesting. I'm trying to figure out how to really string it together right now. Hopefully I'll be able to get somewhere with that. But until next time, this is Kodak signing off.